All right,
Sure.
very good. Well, good afternoon, folks. So I
Good
am
afternoon.
Joe Hatton. I am the Deputy Commissioner of Agriculture for your state of West Virginia. Commissioner Leonhardt actually got called away to I believe, a Board of Education meeting this afternoon, so he will not be with us. So I reside outside of Morgantown. I believe Amy Miner's on here, an Assistant Commissioner for the Department of Agriculture, and she works out of the Charleston office. You saw Millie Taylor a few minutes ago pop up on the screen, and she's going to take some time here in a few minutes to go through some slides with you. And then I believe Dr. Carrie Summers will join us maybe a few minutes late. I don't think I saw her on there a minute ago when I looked, but Dr. Summers will join us as we proceed. She's actually the director of our regulatory division, where hemp and kratom products reside in terms of our regulatory oversight. So again, I'm Joe Hatton. I'm Deputy Commissioner for the West Virginia Department of Agriculture. And what you're about to go and see is the work that we did in the year 2024, as the slide says, and it's a summary of what we've been doing related to product registration and review and analysis of those types of products. So early program, this got started with legislation about 2 years ago that had some issues that we got resolved in the legislature last year, and then we started hiring staff late winter, early spring, and uh, from that point we started hot and heavy into the regulatory and oversight side of life. So, Millie, are you in a position to take over here?
Sure. Sure. So I'm Millie Taylor. I'm the Assistant Director for our Regulatory and Environmental Affairs Division. We handle most all the legislative rules for our department. So I guess since you're sharing, can I just ask you to change slides? Would that be okay, Kelly? Okay. So, so as Joe said, we were tasked with the regulations for hemp and kratom in the state of West Virginia. So this is just a legislative rule that we have to ensure the safety and health of the West Virginians who receive any products or purchase these products. So if you could go to the next slide. So, again, here, this is just saying that we ensure that all products are safe for consumers. So we have inspectors that go all around our state who inspect such, I mean, grocery stores to smoke shops to gas stations to anywhere you've seen these products available, and I'm sure you've all seen them in gas stations or wherever you can find. Um, so we do, our inspectors go out and inspect, and then we would collect laboratory samples for our laboratory analysis. Um, we also do registration for our products as well. So we have a registration, section, a compliance section, and an enforcement section. Next slide, please. So industrial hemp, these are some uses. There's like 50 different thousand products across the world that you could use from the hemp plant itself. A lot of people think when you're thinking hemp products, you're thinking like your smokables or your CBDs or something you would see at a vape shop or something. But I just went to Colorado for a conference, and there was many people more interested in the fiber part. They're building houses with it. They're doing hempcrete. They're doing, blocks, the wood, anything like that. So it's coming more popular than just what we would think that we look at just in the other way. Building materials, like I said, um, cannabis oil and extract, that's usually what we would see mostly in the products that are in our state, meaning like, oils that you can extract like for your CBDs, for your topicals, for your vaping products, anything like that. Foods, tinctures, anything that you would possibly see. That is our most popular, the oil coming from the plant. So next slide, please. Here are some products that you would see. This is coming from hemp here. There's concentrates or extracts, like I said there. There's edibles, there's drinks, there's tinctures, You'll see like the lotions, the shampoos, that kind of thing. There's patches, and then the fiber products again. Hemp seeds, for not for germination, not to grow, but I don't know if you've seen like in healthy markets or not. There's the hemp hearts, the hemp seeds that are good for fiber and that type of thing. It's not going to give you the THC effect that you would think, on some of them. There's oils, aerosols, smokables, and pet products too. I don't know if you've seen the CBD bones, actually, anything like that. So those are all regulated through us, and those are kind of popular items. So Kratom, we were given Kratom probably a couple years ago from the legislature. It is a new program for us. We are still working on it. This year, 2025, we started registered all products. Last year, when we started, we registered all retailers that sell Kratom. But this year, we are tasked with the products as well, meaning like all of our hemp products. If you see a hemp product on a shelf anywhere, that should be registered with the Department of Agriculture. We have a website where you can go and see the, excuse me, the approved products that can be sold in our state. If it's not on that website, it shouldn't be sold in our state. But some uses for kratom, it actually comes from a plant usually found in Southeast Asia. There have been, we've known a few places in the United States that have tried to grow this. I think it's more of maybe an indoor growing because it's a very tropical plant. It also comes from the same family that as coffee comes from. So we're seeing now like tinctures, the capsules, powders. Powders are pretty popular here in our state now that we're doing this. There's teas, edibles, anything like that. So it usually comes from the leaves of the plant and it's crushed, and then they make them into these products that you can see on the shelves. Next slide, please. Okay, so the legal limits of THC in any hemp product is 0.3%. So that means once our we have a separate section, industrial hemp, that's in our plant industries division. So actually, we would have West Virginia growers sometimes, and they would go into the field and do what they would call a crop test. So immediately when that plant is cut to be tested, that product should not be any more than 0.3%. So after that process happens, when these processors turn it into a product. Again, the final product of whatever they add, whatever they're using, the oils or, what product they're making, still has to be under the 0.3% of THC to be considered legal. Anything over that, and then that would be considered marijuana to us legally. Also, for the kratom product, the hydroxymetragenine is the main ingredient in what you would find in kratom, and that limit cannot be any more than 2%. Next, please. So registration, when I talked about registration, so all retail facilities, distributors, manufacturers, anything that has any business in West Virginia has to be registered with the Department of Agriculture. So in 2024, we had over 4,000 registered retailers and products for hemp and kratom. This year, again, I said, we started the kratom products registration, so our numbers are going to be a lot higher this year as well. So this is just an example. You'll see the 2024 date. If you go into a retail facility, this is what we provide them to show that they are registered with the Department of Agriculture. They should also have a certificate present that you can see with the dates on it saying that their store is allowable to sell these products in West Virginia. Next. Okay, so here's some popular products that we have found, stuff we register. So you'll see the textiles, the rope, the hempcrete, the building products that we talked about. They still need to be registered with the department, but we do not charge a fee for that type of stuff, for fiber or anything like that. Our fees would be for any kind of derivatives, your edibles, drinks, tinctures, your lotions, vaping products. We also have smokable flower or bud as well, so they would be registered as well. Next, please. So typically to process industrial hemp, like I spoke about before, there's three forms that we would see most commonly, and that's the seeds, the extracts, the oil, or the fiber. So the plant content from the hemp plant's leaves, seeds, stems, whereas hemp seed oil processing exclusively uses the seeds only. Hemp seeds and hemp oils are primarily forms that people use for their dietary or nutrition purposes. And that's when I said like the hemp hearts, you'll see the hemp protein powder kind of thing like that. It's just more graded, graded and fine. So people incorporate hemp products into their diet several ways. Hemp seed as food toppers. The hemp seeds and oil can be used as a dairy replacement product. Hemp milk substitutes, hemp cheese substitutes, and protein powder. Next, please. So these are when I talk about our inspections. So we have regulatory officers. We have 3 dedicated regulatory officers around our state that only does hemp and kratom. However, we have 10 other regulatory officers who do other projects within our division, but they also can help out with this as well if we need them. So any retail establishment across the state, they would go in and do a retail inspection, and that would consist of, first of all, making sure that the company, the firm, is legally registered with the Department of Agriculture. They would go in first and look for any unregistered products because, again, that the registered products list would be on our website. Also, they would look for any unallowable or illegal products. Like sometimes, you'll just find stuff blatantly on a label that is well over the THC level. We can actually do confiscations in the store. We've done this. When we do confiscations, if the product is over, we will hold it for so many days. It goes to our prosecuting attorney in that said county. If they want to prosecute, we will do that. If not, we have our own incinerator and we destroy the product after so many days of handling. Because it can't come back into compliance. Sometimes there are label claims that are just maybe just a typo or maybe like a claim that's not as extreme, and that product would be allowed to come back into compliance with a label change. So we do allow that. We work with them to get their product right. But in some cases, we have had confiscations where it's just blatant marijuana that we've been seeing in store. So next, please. So also during their inspection, they can take samples, any kind of sample that they want. A lot of times we rely on our laboratory to tell us what they want that week. And our laboratory can test from, THC levels to molds to moisture, heavy metals, anything that, even the variety, if they're claiming, a CBD or a CBG, and it's actually not in the product, they can test for that as well. So they do an array of testing for us to make sure that our products are safe. The inspectors usually hand deliver these samples to our laboratory in Charleston, and then they would run their testing, and then those results would come to our compliance officer. We have a compliance officer who would, get the results out, give any penalties if necessary, or fines, or anything like that. Some of those can also be taken to a level of law enforcement is involved if it goes to that extreme. Sometimes it can be taken care of on our division level. Sometimes we have to go outside with the law enforcement. Next, please. So this is just a map showing our 3 dedicated hemp and kratom regulatory officers. We're kind of all around the state here. We kind of broke this up into how many more of the like smoke shops that we would have, because those are the bigger ones. I mean, we always have the gas stations too, but we kind of broke this up into the areas for those people. If you would ever have an issue or something, you could reach out to us. We could have an inspector go to a certain place. They could do an inspection, get back to us, whatever somebody would need, any complaint or anything like that. Next slide, please. So this is just some of our 2024 findings, and this number will be a lot more this year. We've had a lot of law enforcement work just this past year. Some things on their end that we've just helped out with, but some things that they've helped us with before. So our numbers of confiscations would probably be higher this year. So in 2024, and this was around November, so it could be just a little bit higher, but this is when this was compiled. So there were 773 inspections. All 55 counties were inspected. The retailers, 1,256 hemp products. I mean, you can read this for yourself. Here are the hemp manufacturers. Um, Letters to request registrations to manufacturers. So a lot of places that we'll see when we go in are out-of-state companies. So, there's not, we have a few growers and processors here in the state, but it's not many. You'll see a lot of, California or Colorado or North Carolina, anything like that. So we have to make sure that their products are registered with us as well. So if an inspector would go in and we would see a new product, nobody knew what it was, we would have to contact that manufacturer and make sure that they were in compliance with us. So that happens a lot now because we see all kinds of new products. It's hard to, every day you're going to see something new. The number of illegal products confiscated last year in up to November was 6,305, and locations with illegal products were 143. So that's when I said, sometimes we could call law enforcement with that if we need to, or the prosecutor wants to go higher with it, and we deal with them on that. We work with them. Next, please. So our enforcement. So these are the reasons to embargo or confiscate. So unregistered sellers, distributors, or manufacturers. So that just means when we go in there, we have a system, a process that says if we go into a store more than twice and they're still not registered, then we can start our enforcement, which means they start with a fine. They can get penalized. Sometimes they can go even get a permit revocation, even though they don't have one yet. They would still have to wait like a due process to even get that if they don't come in compliance with us. Adulterated products. So that would be more of your samples that would not necessarily the legal limit, but something, maybe you found mold in it, maybe there was lead, maybe something like that. That would definitely be, we would confiscate. We would do like a statewide embargo on that. So what that means, it would be all hands on deck for a statewide embargo. It would go to our regulatory officers, all of them in the state, and they would go confiscate these products because they would be deemed unsafe. So we would take those products from all the stores off the shelves. Illegal substances, and that's usually when that's the THC level is too high, or products that we just don't allow in this state. We have the opportunity to declare what we consider safe. And this goes through working with our lab, usually our scientists, because they can tell us, oh, this product, there's no way it can be straight from the plant. So it could be synthesized or synthetic or something like that. So we would not allow that. We only allow products, just from the plant itself. It can't be man-made, I guess you could say. Also, any products that we see on the shelves that are attractive to children, like with cartoons, popular food items, like sometimes you'll see like things that look like Skittles or Doritos or any kind of things like that. Those are all, we would confiscate those immediately. And then, of course, synthetic cannabinoids that I just talked about. And anything that we would deem unsafe would mean, like when I was just saying, the list that our scientists are help to create, that would be, there's another product out on the market that nobody's heard of. So we would contact them and they would do their research on that because, just me or us in our office, we're not sure about this because we don't have that background. So they would help with this stuff and they do a lot. So we kind of have a list of allowable, and it grows. Like it can be if a company has a product or a ingredient that they think they deem is safe and not synthetic, they can actually give us their research, and if our team decides that they are correct on that, we would allow it. But it takes a little bit of time. We're just not going to say yeah. And also, of course, the legal limit of THC. Anything over that would be confiscated as well. Next, please. Okay, so these are just some when we said attracted to children there that would definitely be off the market. We couldn't do any of this stuff. You'll see the bears, the Jolly Ranchers, or anything like that. Those will be off the shelf immediately if we ever see or hear of those. Next, please. Okay, so THCA has been a popular item. So this is what looks like just what you would see like from a plant. I mean, it would look similar to marijuana, just like it really. It comes from the bud or the flower. Um, so THCA, like in this form, is legal, but it still has to be under the 0.3% threshold. And it's very hard to do. I'm just, so a lot of times when you see THCA and you see something like on the screen here, it says 63.14% THCA. There's no way. The limit of THCA would have to be under a 1% to um, even be legal, close to legal, because we're a total THC state. And what that means is the THCA is the acidic form of the plant. So it all comes from the plant. So you would take that acid form plus the THC, or excuse me, sorry, the THC acid form times it by 0.877 and then add your delta 9 THC. So that would just be your THC coming from the plant. This is a little tricky. I know. I'm sorry about this, but delta 9 THC is what comes from any plant, and that could be the part that gets you high. So, in medical marijuana or just regular marijuana, anything over that, what they're looking for is delta 9 THC, and that produces the high or the euphoric feeling or whatever. So when we calculate anything on a label, we would look at the acid and then the delta 9 content, and then we would get our total THC for that. So examples, if you'll look at this jar here that says 63%, after we did our calculation here, it shows that the THC level would be 23.12%, and that's totally marijuana. That's way over even medical marijuana limit. So these would definitely be confiscated, and this would be a law enforcement issue at that time. Next, please. And I think we're about finished here. So that was just a quick rundown of what we do kind of day to day. We're finding stuff new every day. We all work together. This is a big project for us. Does anybody have any questions, or do you want to get in more detail about something or anything?
Before you jump to questions, Millie, I think just